Deep within the quiet, rolling farmlands of Bavaria, Germany, once stood a remote farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck. A place of rustic isolation, far from the nearest village, it was a world unto itself. This small, self-sufficient homestead, seemingly idyllic, harbored secrets that would soon erupt in a crime so brutal and baffling, it would etch itself into the annals of German criminal history as an enduring enigma. The very name Hinterkaifeck has become synonymous with terror and the unknown. On April 4, 1922, the tranquil silence of Hinterkaifeck was shattered by a discovery that defied comprehension. Neighbors, concerned by the family's unusual absence from church and the children's lack of attendance at school, ventured to the farm. What they found would send shivers down the spines of generations: 6 members of the Gruber family and their new maid, brutally murdered. The scene was one of unimaginable horror, a stark contrast to the peaceful rural setting. At the heart of this tragedy was the Gruber family. Andreas Gruber, the patriarch, was a stern and respected farmer, though known to be a difficult man. His wife, Casilia, maintained the household. Their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, lived with them, along with her 2 young children, Casilia and Joseph. Victoria had lost her husband, Karl Gabriel, in the First World War. This tight-knit, yet often contentious, family unit formed the core of Hinterkaifeck's small population. Adding to the household, and tragically, to the victim count, was Maria Baumgartner. She had arrived at Hinterkaifeck just hours before the murders, taking up the position of the family's new maid. Her predecessor had left only months earlier, citing an unsettling feeling and strange occurrences within the house. Maria's arrival was meant to bring new life and help to the farm. Instead, it placed her directly into the path of an unknown, merciless killer, sealing her fate alongside the Grubers. Long before the horrific murders, an atmosphere of unease had settled over Hinterkaifeck. The family reported a series of strange incidents, starting in the autumn of 1921. There were whispers of a haunting, a sense of something profoundly wrong. These were not mere superstitions but concrete, inexplicable events that suggested an unseen presence, eroding the family's peace of mind and setting a chilling prelude to the coming tragedy. The isolation of the farm amplified these growing fears. One of the first unsettling events occurred in late March 1922. Andreas Gruber discovered footprints in the fresh snow leading from the edge of the forest directly to the farmhouse. Crucially, there were no footprints leading away. This suggested that whoever had approached the farm had either entered the house and remained there, or had left by an entirely different, inexplicable route. The implication was clear and deeply disturbing: an intruder had been on their property. Adding to the Gruber family's growing anxiety, the house keys mysteriously vanished. Andreas Gruber meticulously searched for them, but they were simply gone, without a trace. This incident compounded the feeling of vulnerability, suggesting that someone might have gained illicit access to their home, or was planning to do so. In an isolated farm, where security relied on simple locks and trusted neighbors, the disappearance of keys was a significant and frightening breach of privacy and safety. More alarmingly, the family reported hearing noises coming from the attic. Despite thorough searches, no one was ever found. The creaks and shuffling sounds persisted, particularly at night, convincing the Grubers that someone was secretly living above them, hidden in plain sight. This clandestine occupation of their home, coupled with the other strange occurrences, must have been a terrifying realization, turning their sanctuary into a place of constant vigilance and fear. Perhaps the most peculiar incident before the murders was the discovery of a newspaper on the farm that no one in the family subscribed to. This seemingly innocuous detail further solidified the belief that an intruder was not only present but had been living on the farm, secretly receiving mail or perhaps planting it as a taunt. It hinted at a boldness and cunning that transcended mere trespassing, suggesting a perpetrator who was deliberately toying with his victims. The chilling atmosphere at Hinterkaifeck was so palpable that the previous maid, who had worked for the Grubers for months, abruptly quit her position just 6 months prior to the murders. She openly declared that the house was haunted, refusing to stay a moment longer. Her departure, motivated by a deep sense of dread and unexplained events, serves as a stark testament to the escalating terror that had enveloped the farm, a warning tragically unheeded by those who remained. Into this environment of mounting fear and inexplicable events stepped Maria Baumgartner. She arrived at Hinterkaifeck on the afternoon of March 31, 1922, ready to begin her duties as the new maid. She had no way of knowing that she was walking into a nightmare, into a home where an unseen killer was already lurking, perhaps for days or even weeks. Her journey to Hinterkaifeck would be her last, a tragic twist of fate that placed her directly in the path of unparalleled evil. That very night, March 31, 1922, the long-simmering dread at Hinterkaifeck culminated in an act of monstrous violence. The prevailing theory suggests that the killer or killers lured Andreas Gruber, his wife Kazilia, his daughter Victoria, and his granddaughter Kazilia, one by one, into the barn. There, they were brutally murdered with a pickaxe. The quiet of the farm was broken only by the sounds of the attack, unheard by the outside world, setting the stage for an unimaginable horror. After dispatching 4 family members in the barn, the killer moved into the farmhouse. There, Maria Baumgartner, the new maid, and 2-year-old Joseph Gabriel, Victoria's son, met the same horrific fate. Joseph was found murdered in his cradle. The meticulous nature of the killings, ensuring no witnesses remained, speaks to a chilling determination and a cold, calculating mind. The perpetrator left no one alive, erasing all traces of the family in their brief, terrifying last moments. Following the murders, an unnerving silence descended upon Hinterkaifeck. The 6 bodies lay undiscovered for several days. This period, from the night of March 31 to April 4, is one of the most disturbing aspects of the case. It is believed that the killer, or perhaps accomplices, remained on the farm, feeding the livestock, eating meals, and even sleeping in the house, all while the victims lay dead only yards away. This suggests a profound depravity and a chilling disregard for human life. The alarm was finally raised after several days of unusual quiet from Hinterkaifeck. Young Kazilia Gabriel had not shown up for school, and the family had missed Sunday church service. Maria Baumgartner's sister, sensing something was wrong when Maria didn't return home, also expressed concern. This string of uncharacteristic absences gradually began to piece together a picture of distress, compelling the community to investigate the isolated farm that had fallen unnaturally silent. On the afternoon of April 4, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a local farmer and neighbor who had a complicated personal history with Victoria Gabriel, decided to investigate. Accompanied by his sons, he journeyed to Hinterkaifeck. What began as a concerned welfare check quickly transformed into the discovery of one of Germany's most infamous crime scenes. He was the first to enter the barn and behold the gruesome sight, a moment that would forever link him to the tragedy. Entering the barn, Schlittenbauer's eyes met an unspeakable horror. For bodies, those of Andreas Gruber, Kazilia Gruber, Victoria Gabriel, and young Kazilia, were found huddled together, covered with hay, brutally murdered. The sight must have been utterly shattering. His immediate actions, though driven by shock, would later come under intense scrutiny by investigators. The initial wave of terror quickly gave way to the grim realization that a mass murder had occurred on their quiet Bavarian landscape. Near the victims, the murder weapon was discovered, a pickaxe, a common farm tool. Its brutal efficiency in inflicting fatal blows suggested a perpetrator with intimate knowledge of the farm, or at least easy access to its implements. The choice of such a crude, readily available weapon underscored the visceral nature of the crime, far removed from any sophisticated planning. It was a tool of labor turned into an instrument of death, leaving a chilling imprint on the investigation. News of the massacre swiftly reached the nearby town of Schrobenhausen, and police from Munich were dispatched. The remote location and the shocking nature of the crime immediately presented a formidable challenge. The initial investigation was hampered by the sheer brutality of the scene and the contamination of evidence by villagers, who, driven by curiosity and fear, had inadvertently disturbed the crime site before trained police arrived, complicating forensic efforts from the outset. One of the most perplexing details that emerged from the initial investigation was the complete absence of any signs of forced entry. Doors and windows were securely locked, untouched. This crucial fact strongly suggested that the killer was either known to the family, was let inside, or had already been secretly residing on the farm for some time, as implied by the earlier strange occurrences. It ruled out a simple break-in, pointing towards a much more intimate and insidious crime. Initially, robbery was considered a primary motive. However, this theory quickly unraveled. While some money was reported missing, a significant amount of cash, valuables, and even livestock were found untouched on the premises. This contradiction puzzled investigators. If robbery was the motive, why leave so much behind? The lack of theft suggested a deeper, more personal motive, shifting the focus from opportunism to something far more sinister and targeted. Perhaps the most chilling revelation was the evidence that someone had continued to live on the farm for several days after the murders. Food had been consumed from the kitchen, and the cows had been milked and fed. It appeared the perpetrator, or perpetrators, remained at Hinterkaifeck, maintaining the illusion of normalcy while the deceased lay hidden. This deliberate, calculated desecration of the home and bodies pointed to an individual with profound psychological disturbance, adding a layer of horror to the already gruesome event. The investigation cast a wide net, generating numerous suspects and theories. Over the decades, more than 100 individuals were questioned, often repeatedly. The remote nature of the farm, combined with the Gruber family's complex personal relationships, meant that local gossip and long-standing feuds quickly entered the police reports. Everyone was a potential suspect, from jilted lovers to disgruntled neighbors, highlighting the deep mistrust and simmering resentments within the close-knit rural community. One early theory focused on Carl Gabriel, Victoria's husband, who had been reported killed in action during World War I in 1914. There were rumors he hadn't truly died, but had deserted and returned to seek revenge on the Grubers. This speculation was fueled by the family's contentious nature and Victoria's alleged incestuous relationship with her father, Andreas. While authorities explored this, no credible evidence ever surfaced to prove Carl Gabriel's survival or involvement. Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the neighbor who discovered the bodies, found himself a prime suspect. He had a son with Victoria Gabriel, Joseph, the 2-year-old victim, born out of an affair. His discovery of the bodies, and his actions at the scene, including allegedly moving one of the bodies, raised suspicions. While interrogated extensively, Schlittenbauer maintained his innocence, and despite the compelling personal connection, no concrete evidence ever implicated him in the murders. A darker, more disturbing theory revolved around the incestuous relationship between Andreas Gruber and his daughter, Victoria, which had resulted in the birth of young Joseph. This scandalous secret was widely known in the community and caused significant tension. The possibility of a revenge killing, perhaps by a former lover of Victoria, or even someone seeking to expose or punish the family for their transgression, became a strong line of inquiry, though ultimately, it too led to dead ends. Another common theory in rural crime cases of the era involved transient individuals, such as wandering craftsmen or vagrants, who often moved through the countryside seeking work. It was speculated that such individuals might have been turned away by Andreas Gruber, a man known for his stern demeanor, leading to a violent retaliation. While plausible, this theory suffered from the same lack of concrete evidence, with no transient individuals ever definitively linked to the horrific crime. Despite decades of investigation, countless interrogations, and the dedicated efforts of numerous police officers, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain officially unsolved. No one was ever charged, and the identity of the perpetrator, or perpetrators, continues to elude capture. The case stands as a stark reminder that sometimes, even with extensive effort, the truth can remain stubbornly hidden, buried beneath layers of conflicting testimony, lost evidence, and the passage of time. In 1923, just a year after the horrific events, the Hinterkaifeck farmstead was completely demolished. The family's possessions were sold off, and the buildings were razed to the ground. This decision was driven by the grim reality that no one wished to live on the site of such unspeakable atrocities. While it symbolically erased the physical location of the crime, it also inadvertently removed potential clues, ensuring that the mystery of Hinterkaifeck would forever be intertwined with its physical disappearance. The Hinterkaifeck murders continue to captivate the imagination of true crime enthusiasts, historians, and local residents alike. Its bizarre details, the strange premonitions, the lack of forced entry, the killer remaining on site, and the complete absence of a clear motive make it a perfect, albeit tragic, puzzle. The allure of the unknown, combined with the brutal reality of 6 innocent lives lost, ensures that the story of Hinterkaifeck is continually revisited and re-examined. For the local community, the Hinterkaifeck murders left a deep and lasting psychological scar. The realization that a merciless killer had walked among them, possibly even lived alongside them for days, created a pervasive sense of fear and paranoia. Trust was eroded, and suspicion became rampant. The trauma of an unsolved crime, especially one so brutal and intimate, can haunt a community for generations, leaving an enduring legacy of unease and a desperate longing for answers that may never come. Even decades later, the Hinterkaifeck case occasionally sees renewed, albeit unofficial, investigation. In 2007, students from the Police Academy, in Fürstenfeldbruck, Germany, undertook a cold case re-examination. Using modern forensic techniques and psychological profiling, they hope to shed new light on the crime. However, the limited surviving evidence and the irreversible damage caused by the initial scene contamination proved too great an obstacle, and the case remains open. Despite the lack of official resolution, theories continue to abound. Was it a lone wolf, driven by personal vendetta or madness? Were there multiple perpetrators, working together in a macabre dance of death? The whispers of a family secret, the possibility of a returned soldier, or the desperate act of a vagrant all persist, each offering a potential, yet unproven, narrative. The very ambiguity of the case is what keeps it alive, a constant invitation for speculation and reinterpretation. The greatest tragedy of Hinterkaifeck is not just the brutal loss of 6 lives, but the enduring weight of unknowing. For over a century, the victims and their families have been denied justice, and society has been left without closure. The absence of a definitive answer leaves a void, a chilling reminder that some horrors defy explanation and remain forever shrouded in mystery. It speaks to the fragility of peace and the terrifying potential for evil to remain unpunished and unseen. Though the farmstead is long gone, razed to the ground, the ghost of Hinterkaifeck lingers. It exists in the collective memory, in countless books, documentaries, and discussions online. It's a haunting presence that serves as a grim cautionary tale, a symbol of the dark underbelly of human nature and the unsettling reality that true evil can strike anywhere, even in the most isolated and seemingly peaceful corners of the world, leaving behind an indelible mark. The Bavarian landscape itself, with its deep forests and quiet fields, stands as the silent witness to the Hinterkaifeck murders. It holds the secrets of that fateful night, the unrevealed truth of who committed such monstrous acts. As seasons turn and generations pass, the fields still yield their crops, but beneath them lies a narrative of terror, a profound mystery that continues to resist all efforts to unravel it, keeping its chilling secrets eternally hidden. Over 100 years have passed since the Hinterkaifeck murders, yet the silence surrounding the killer's identity remains unbroken. The passage of time has only deepened the mystery, scattering witnesses, eroding memories, and making forensic breakthroughs nearly impossible. This century of silence is a testament to the perpetrator's cunning, or perhaps simply a tragic convergence of circumstances that allowed a brutal crime to slip through the grasp of justice, forever to be debated. Beyond the sensationalism and the puzzle, it's crucial to remember the human tragedy at the core of Hinterkaifeck. 6 individuals, from an elderly couple to a 2-year-old child, had their lives violently cut short. Their stories, their hopes, and their fears ended abruptly, leaving behind only questions. This devastating loss of life, particularly in such a brutal and intimate manner, is the true legacy of Hinterkaifeck, a stark reminder of the fragile nature of human existence. The Hinterkaifeck murders stand as a dark chapter in German history, a chilling testament to the fact that some mysteries are simply too profound, too twisted, to ever be fully unraveled. It remains a case without a motive, without a clear culprit, and without a definitive resolution. The tale of Hinterkaifeck will undoubtedly continue to be told, whispered across generations, a perpetual narrative of unsolved terror that challenges our understanding of justice and evil. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain an enduring enigma, a chilling footnote in criminal history that refuses to fade. The questions persist: who committed these unspeakable acts? Why did they choose this isolated farm? And how did they manage to disappear without a trace? With each passing year, the answers become more elusive, swallowed by time. Hinterkaifeck, a name once known only to a few, now echoes as a symbol of the profound and terrifying power of the unknown.